I started working here at the Old Brighton Community Centre as the coordinator between 83 and 86. So apart from work, I ran a youth club here called the Old Brighton Youth Club for young kids between the age of 5, 6 and 11, and then you had the adult youth club between 12 and 16-year-olds. Now, in terms of social life, I mean, I'm from Trinidad, as I said, so it's like lots of parties, house parties, and cricket. So from cricket, you go to party, which is Saturday nights, and of course Sunday nights you had clubs all the way over in Stratford. I used to go and listen to Sir Coxsone sound system there in a pub called the Swan. So that was my week. But Saturdays I used to go over North London and Ridley Road and listen to the song systems in the houses. So between 83 and 86 I worked here as a centre coordinator, and between 86 and 98 I worked for Southwark Council, several different jobs. I started as in 86 as the Senior Community Development Officer. 86, 89 I went to Acting Deputy Race Advisor, and then in 89, 2002 I started working for the race unit. So I got sort of demoted from there because they had a new race advisor, and I started working as the monitoring officer for the funding to the black community groups. And there were several groups there in terms of work. I mean, I set up the Sojourner Truth Youth Centre in Sumner Road, the Unity Centre on Peckham High Street, the Southwark Chinese Vietnamese group in Bellenden School. Also there we had the Turkish group, Turkish Cypriot group, and then we had several black projects. The Black History in the Hall of Fame, we had a project set up on Ben Hill Road. In the same office we had the Southwark Somali community group. So those were the projects now. But the main one was the Southwark Muslim Women Association, also in Bellenden School on Bellenden Road.
Was the jobs hard to obtain? Like when you came over, was it hard for you?
No, not for me, because I went to school, I got my O-levels and what have you, and I just went straight into the job on East Dulwich Road, EWV Roads, which I used to cut the velvet, which was laid out in front of me, and they used to make riding caps, velvet caps. And one of the caps I made was for the guy from Slade, Nobby Holder. You remember that hat? I actually made that for him. It was a personal hat I made for him, cotton, and it was stitched there. In the 80s we had the Jones and Higgins on Rye Lane, well-known shopping precinct, like Harrods, but it was the Peckham model. And then on the other side of that you had the Marks and Spencers, you had Sainsbury's, lots of the big shops. But as a youngster in the 80s, I used to get my suits on Rye Lane from Leslie Andrews, the key, two-tone suits. All the young black guys used to go there and get their shoes. And on the corner, you had Ravel's on the corner, so you get all our brogues and so on and so forth. And so that was the in thing for all the black youngsters. I ran the Old Brighton Football Club. I set them up here, and a lot of the youngsters were from the estate, but I also doubled up with the youngsters across the road at Champion Hill. Yeah, so we had a very successful team. Very, very successful. I remember raising money from Marks and Spencer's, asking them to buy us some kit. And they gave us some money and we bought 2 kits. And so the guys were able to play in the league. I can't even remember the league, it's so long ago. And some of the players, I mean, talking about social life, what excited me was how good they were as footballers. We had several of the youngsters playing for the club went on to play professionally. And the most notable one is Carlton Fairweather, who went on to play for Wimbledon. And in fact, they won the FA Cup final. Right? He's locally always comes back and say to us, to the youth club and give them a sort of a encouraging support. In terms of cricket, I used to play for the Old Brighton Cricket Club, which was also set up here, from named after the centre. We used to meet on the corner of the road there, Old Brighton Road, and play up at Honor Oak Park, which is in Southwark, our league matches. And I would captain them, social secretary, and then in the 90s they collapsed, because I was always saying to them, look, you need the youngsters, they're the future of tomorrow. Mostly reggae, because I also used to do, in between working here in 83 to 86 and up to 89 when I moved to Croydon, I used to go on tour with Bob Marley, Gregory Isaac, Dennis Brown, Big Youth, Twinkle Brothers. I brought over from Trinidad, from Jamaica in, when did I bring them over? 1981, before the Brixton riots. They played at the academy in Brixton. Lovely group, lovely guys,
So when you mentioned you went on tour with them, was you friends of these artists? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was tour manager. Tour manager.
Okay.
Yeah, tour manager. Went all over Europe, I remember doing 11 days with Peter Tosh in Italy. All the big stadiums, football stadiums we did. And he packed it out. And we visit all these clubs and street parties, house parties in North London. And used to walk back from there because none of the cab drivers would bring us back across the water. So after the 5 o'clock in the morning, you start walking and come back, find some sleep, and then I get up, have some breakfast, and I go on to play football in those days. So that's every Saturday. And then Sunday you play the football, come back, and you're out doing partying and so on and so forth. Some wonderful times. No problems. And I was always fighting against racism, but not physically. Verbally we would argue the toss and get things done. Right?
What do you mean by verbally? Do you mean like what you was doing in your work-wise, like setting up youth clubs and the communities?
Anybody who bring the racist attitude towards myself or the council, I would stand up and fight against it, involving the local councillors, because they're the ones who supposed to be looking after the members of their ward. Politics is one thing, but for me, it was joining a party, because for me, my dad told me, you can't have an argument if you're not in the room. So you join the party, I won't say which party, but but you joined the party and you got involved locally as they have their meetings, and get involved in that and select councillors and so on and so forth. But it's hard. Lots of differences I had as a black person in politics in Southwark, because I only lived in Southwark, apart from the 2 years in West Croydon. When I heard it was on, I just went over and had a look and ran, because the police were coming after me and for doing nothing, just looking. But it was needed, I mean, the council did a lot of nonsense with the young black people. I also used to work on Dexter Road Playground. For a few years, I had the telegraph poles put up by the local people on the corner of the street, and I really enjoy that. Really enjoy that, working there. And the 71 riots, that's when they came through there, and oh my gosh, that was frightening. The 71, the 81 was different. It was just maintained to the shopping centre and looting and burning and what have you. But the young people, that's how they felt at the time. Well, I live in Southwark, so I used to go across there and have meetings with Darcus Howe, Courtney Laws, Devon, Thomas, people like that, And I'm trying to remember the chap who became a mayor. He used to run the the pub on the corner of Cole Harbour Lane and Railton Road there. I'm trying to remember his name, but there's inspiration. He come out from the community and went in, put his money where the mouth is to become a councillor, and then he was elected mayor, which is very good for his CV. Shops been broken into, shops burnt, cars turned over, everything. The youths were so angry, but I didn't feel it, but I witnessed it. How they showed, They were knocking it out against the system, the way they were treated by the council and councillors. It didn't hit the government. It was nothing to do with the government, how they were treated through that cycle. It was the local people. The police was the main thing, how they were treated there, being picked up, etc., etc.
Do you think it helped? Like, did it change anything?
It changed certain things, because you had that report by, I think it was the 71 riots, and a lot of the stuff had to be monitored and delivered. And it was coupled with Stephen Lawrence when he got killed, so everything was interlinked, because the youths of Brixton were supporting how Stephen Lawrence got killed. So you had a lot of that. And there's a guy called Lee Jasper in Brixton there. He was like a community leader, so he was giving the youngsters the information. So they're all interlinked, In the 80s, I was living here on the estate, council house on the Standard Road, as Petrie Road, in Ivy Bridge House. That's 80s, and I went to West Croydon, 89 to 92, and came back. Bought my house in 89 in West Croydon, Grafton Road, number 3 Grafton Road. Never forget that. As a couple, we were both working, so it tried a few years to get the mortgage, but couldn't. And eventually, one of the councillors here supported me in getting the mortgage. He recommended me, and I got a mortgage, and so we got a house in Grafton Road in West Croydon. Came back home, then onto the housing estate on Acorn, near the police station, Meeting House Lane, on Queen's Road. Well, I used to be a tour manager with quite a few reggae artists, namely Bob Marley, Gregory Isaac, Peter Tosh, Dennis Brown. Did tours with them all over Europe. Now, in doing that, when I come back from the tour, I would invite them here to the youth club, which is the Old Brighton Community Centre Youth Club, for the youngsters, just to meet them, and so they can say hi and what have you. Because I would tell them when I'm going on tour with so-and-so, and they would say, "Can you bring them back, sir? Can you bring them back?" So that's what I would do. So most of the artists I work with, they came here to the centre to meet the youngsters. Well, in the 80s, we set up the Unity Centre, which is on Peckham High Street, 37 to 39 Peckham High Street. I had to get the Caribbean communities together, young people, to set up a constitution, a bank account, and names on a committee, management committee. And one of the names on the committee was Junior Myers, who was the sort of lead chap on the project. So they had a 3-story building on Peckham High Street, and the downstairs there was like a nightclub with a bar and music system and what have you. So they used to have fundraising music services and events for the young people to raise money, because the council only gave them a certain amount of money to advise the young people and get them into learning the computers and so on and so forth. This was always a difficult question, because the council had a race policy, which I wrote way back in the early 70s. I wasn't working for the council at the time, but I did that as a member of a political party, which put it through to the councillors, which they heard and then adopted it.
And what was the policy?
it was about people being allowing to be fair in involving black people with projects and not discriminating against them. So that was basically, if they wanted funding from the council, they had to have the policy of not being racist. So I just want them to get on, and the key thing was I never forgot when I was young. That's the key thing. So I knew what I went through, and I had an inkling of what they were going through, and I just sort of showed them the way to go forward, so give them the education to do it.